My entitled friends have been speaking badly about me behind my back as they have mocked my pictures that I post on Instagram, constantly making fun of my appearance and the way that I look. But after I uncover the truth by going through one of their phones, they try to turn this all around on me by saying that I invaded their privacy. And now, as a result, I am at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I have two friends that we will call Gabby and Shelly, and no, those are not their real names. All of us are 23, and we were roommates in college and stayed in the same city after graduation. While the three of us are close, I've always known that Gabby and Shelly are the closest, and they really have a sweet friendship. Shelly is getting married, and Gabby is the maid of honor, and I'm one of the bridesmaids. Over the weekend, I went with Shelly so she could look at a wedding dress. Gabby was supposed to come with us, but got called into work at the last minute. I helped Shelly pick out some dresses, then she went with a consultant to try them on. Shelly then asked that I take pictures and videos on her phone to send to her mom and Gabby, and as I was getting the camera ready, a text message from Gabby came through on the phone. Now, I did not mean to click on it, and I was going to instantly click back out, all the way up until I saw one of my Instagram pictures in their private chat from earlier that morning. Both of them were making fun of me for the face I was making and my outfit of choice, and it didn't seem like this was in good nature. Now, I will admit, curiosity got the best of me, so I searched my name in the chat. And when I did that, I found multiple pictures that I, my boyfriend, or my mom have posted of myself, absolutely ripping them to shreds, ranging from selfies to pose shots to even a few baby pictures. They'd also make fun of me in general in terms of the way that I talked, the way I wore my hair, and the way that I ate. This went back, as far as I could tell, at least a year. Well, when I saw that, my heart absolutely broke. It felt so juvenile in high school. While we all joke around, I would never do this to them, nor have they ever tried to instigate these types of conversations with me about the other one-on-one. When all was said and done, I was in tears. As someone who was bullied all through middle and high school, it just brought me back to a horrible place. I put the phone in Shelly's purse, and I brought it to another employee, telling her to tell Shelly that I had to go. I then drove home and I had a long cry. Shelly texted me by the time I made it home, asking me where I went. I said I was going home and we could talk later. When she did call a few hours later, she was understandably confused and hurt that I left. I then told her what I found, and I explained that I only looked further because of the initial text that I accidentally saw. Well, when I said that, she went off on me for looking through her private text messages and said those were none of my business. She also told me that I shouldn't have left the store without saying anything. I said I didn't want to make a scene, but also I knew I couldn't fake being happy for her. Shelly then told me that all the text messages were all in good fun, and clearly she loves me because I'm going to be her bridesmaid. She added that I'm only hurt because I chose to read all those text messages, and later on, Gabby called to tell me that I invaded Shelly's privacy and I hurt her by walking out. My boyfriend and my mom think that I did the right thing by walking out, but obviously they are a little biased, so I really need to know, am I the jerk for looking through those text messages and then leaving? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk in this scenario. Your friends are absolute garbage. Here's the thing about Shelly and Gabby. It's only in good fun now that you found out about it. Like before you found out about it, it was funny at your expense. But now they're trying to make it seem like, oh, come on, we were laughing with you, not at you. And that is absolute garbage. You know the context of those text messages. You know that they were making fun of you behind your back, and they were absolutely trying to tear you down limb from limb. Like, why else would they send all these photos exclusively to the two of them while also making horrible comments about these photos? Like, that is so toxic, it's not even funny. And also, just look at the way she reacted when you called her out. When you said, hey, I saw what you said about me and I don't appreciate that. She suddenly got super defensive and was like, oh my god, you invaded my privacy. But she's completely missing the point of the entire conversation. The both of them have been speaking poorly about you behind their back, and they've treated you like garbage while you thought you were good friends with these people. And that's probably the worst part about it that would drive me insane. Like, if someone's gonna be my friend, they better show up for me when it counts, because you had every intention of being a bridesmaid at her wedding. But now you're finding out that maybe that friendship wasn't nearly as deep as you thought, which is so devastating, and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that. So no, not only are you not the jerk for walking out, but I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would even want to stay in that wedding, because Gabby and Shelly sound absolutely toxic, and you can definitely find better friends than that in the future. culture. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen on Facebook claims that she's gonna sue me after I share a photograph that she doesn't like in our Facebook group. And right now, I am absolutely blown away by this Karen's entitlement. Here's what happened. So I never thought I would ever share a story of my own about an entitled person, but apparently the fates have decreed otherwise, because last week, I too was blessed to be in the presence of an entitled Karen. Now, I met this Karen about a year ago. Some friends and I were setting up a public exhibition, and I had volunteered to be one of the tour guides to explain said exhibition to potential museum visitors and guide them through the photographs, antiques, and other things that made up our display. One day, a friend texted me if I was free that Friday to do a meet and greet with a group of people who were coming in to see the exhibit, and I decided to say yes. And wouldn't you guess it, among that group was the entitled Karen. Now, I did not at the time have any inkling of how bad this would get, but trust me, it goes south rather quickly. Fast forward about 6 months, and in the short time that I've known her, a few things have become painfully obvious about this Karen. She absolutely loves to talk about her family, her relatives, who she's related to, how she's related to them, as well as how much they earn and how much they're worth, as well as everything about her friends and how much money they make. The words millionaire and billionaire pop up so often, you would think that she was reading the Forbes list, and she would literally talk about them for ages. What should be a 5-minute phone call would turn into a 30-minute lecture about how well connected she is. For the most part, she was generally civil. She invited me out to meals with her friends, she asked me to tell them about myself, and as always, again, for some reason, with heavy emphasis on family history and connections and occupations and jobs and all that other stuff. By now, I had just accepted that she was just weird and eccentric, but whatever. It takes all types, as they say, and I assumed that was honestly it. Now, something to know about the two of us is that we're both members of a local club. This club is a cultural club dedicated to the promotion and preservation of our shared ethnic heritage. There's the main club, and then there's the smaller youth group within the main club. Now, said youth group is run by a friend, and we have a Facebook group, and in this group we share videos, recipes, photos of food, as well as photos of family, friends, and events that we went to, or maybe we talk about stuff that we've hosted or participated in, and occasionally we share historical stuff related to our culture, and that includes photographs, antiques, family heirlooms, and stuff like that. Now, the reason for all of this background information is literally because of what happened about a week ago inside this group. I had written a Facebook post about similar such organizations as our club, and a bit about their history and how they were formed. For visual interest, I had added a photograph into the post, which was the first ever formation of a club like this, which was well over 100 years ago. I posted it in one group on Facebook, and then shared it into the youth group's Facebook group as well, and then I just left it. Well, in a matter of a couple of hours, the entitled Karen was attacking me on Facebook. She was demanding to know which members of this photograph are my ancestors, as well as which ones are my relatives or which ones are my family. I told her that none of them are, and that it's just a historical photo in the public domain. It was relevant to what I was writing, and it was relevant to the group. I shared it, and honestly, that was the end of the story. But no, that's not good enough. She immediately demanded to know by what right I shared this photograph, whether I'd ask anybody's permission, and why I hadn't contacted the descendants of the people in the photograph, which by the way was well over 100 years ago. I told her I had no idea how to do that, even if I did have their names. Well, when I said that, she got furious and demanded that I contact these people, even though I don't know how, and ask their permission, or she would and get me sued. She was also furious that I dared to share the photo in another group, which wasn't about our club or culture or our heritage, and that I have no right to do so. And I'm thinking to myself, that's my Facebook group. You don't have any right to tell me what I can or can't share in my own group. You don't get to dictate how I use my social media account. But no, still not good enough. She went on a diatribe that lasted 2 days, and a messenger diatribe that lasted at least 2 hours. She's now saying that she's gonna send emails and screenshots to some people who she says are super rich and super influential, and she knows them really well, so she says they're gonna sue me. So after having just about enough of this, I reported her to our group admin, who is my friend, who then reported her to the club committee, citing that she was bothering me as the reason for the complaint. The committee is currently in conference about this and other incidents surrounding this entitled Karen. That way they can decide what to do with her, which is seriously seriously long overdue. According to my friend, this entitled Karen has made loads of enemies, has done nothing but complain, has made outrageous suggestions to the club, and has attacked at least 2 or 3 other members. My incident is just the most recent one in the last 3 months. I'm waiting on my friend to provide an update about this, and if necessary for me to provide evidence of the encounter. My friend was really shocked that this happened, and frankly, so was I. I mean, the entitled Karen was so aggressive about something which really is a non-issue. We both agree that any friendship that existed between us and her was now fully and completely dissolved. Now, the entitled Karen is not going to like that at all, because she is all about bragging and making connections, and she loves talking about who she knows and how famous they are. So trust me, she is not going to like this at all, especially if they kick her out of the club. Yeah, it seems like Facebook is really like the harbinger of all Karens. I swear, I've seen some of the worst arguments in my life on Facebook itself, especially in private groups. It's almost like it gives them a license to do and say whatever they want, and they feel emboldened to do that as if there's no consequences. So hopefully, for the sake of your sanity and everybody else's, this entitled Karen gets kicked out sooner than later, because the way she's acting is insane, and you do not deserve to be treated this way in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not giving my parents the baby blanket that my great-grandmother made for me, also that they can use it on my baby sister? Because right now I feel very hurt, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My great-grandmother made a baby blanket for me when my mom was pregnant. She did that for all her kids, grandkids, and then great-grandkids. I was the youngest until now, and my great-grandma would make it clear to parents involved that the baby she made the blankets for should be considered the owners, and it shouldn't be something they keep from us. And so, this is what always happened. I always had mine. My parents did try to take it from me a few times, but my great-grandma stepped in each and every time. Now, I loved mine because she had started experimenting with her knitting, and my blanket is more unique than the rest, and it feels just a little bit more personal. I treasure it despite being a 17-year-old guy, and I treasure it even more because my great-grandmother passed away when I was 10, and I miss her like crazy. So, my parents couldn't have more kids for years. They tried for years, and even did IVF when I was 7, but didn't have another kid from it. So with their focus being so set on that, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And this is something that extended family brought to their attention a few times. It was comments like, "I just want a baby so bad. I can't imagine my life without a child," which is what my mom would say, and my dad would say, "We feel so incomplete without a baby." And that's how my family members would take notice that things were off. I mean, these were some of the comments that left me feeling as I do. It was never about having another baby. It was always just having a baby, almost like I was invisible. They talked about having a baby being their biggest dream, and it stung so much to have their focus in life around that, and they would get so depressed about not having a baby. My great-grandmother, before she passed away, told them to be thankful for the blessing, aka me, and how they already had a baby, and they were letting me grow up without them. It didn't change anything, and I did basically grow up without my parents, and they now have no idea who my friends are or what's even going on in my life. Now, this was a surprise pregnancy, and my parents are so excited. They did all the early tests to find out that they're having a girl, and now they started shopping and doing all kinds of stuff for her. But then my mom got sad because my great-grandmother isn't around to knit her a blanket too, so they told me that they wanted mine. Now, they didn't ask me for it. Instead, they simply told me, and when I said no, they grew angry. They said that she deserves to have a blanket from great-grandma and that their baby needs one. So I asked them what I was, and they said, "You're almost a grown man." Well, I left the blanket with my best friend because I was afraid my parents would search the house to find it. They were so angry, and they started doing the guilt trips, saying that my baby sister deserves better. And how can I look at myself in the mirror knowing that I don't want to share this with her? They told me that it's like I don't even want her to exist, or I hate her for something and she's not even born yet. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting to share my baby blanket? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. No, of course you are not the jerk. Your parents are being awful to you. Instead of taking care of their 17-year-old child and treating them like, I don't know, a member of the family, they're almost pushing you aside and treating this baby like a do-over. So for them to demand your baby blanket is completely out of the question. And I also think it was a really good idea to leave that with your friend, because based on the way they're acting, I'm kind of convinced that they absolutely would have gone out of their way to find that stupid blanket, because they clearly don't care about what you want in the slightest. Like, they literally are going out of their way to make sure that your new baby sister has everything that you never had growing up. So no, you are not the jerk, and hopefully you're able to move out of there at some point, because seriously, the way your family's acting is incredibly inappropriate. An entitled jerk chews me out after I sit in the easily accessible spots near the front of a bus, claiming that I should have given up my spot for him the second I saw him. But instead of ignoring these kinds of comments like I normally would, I decided that I was not going to take that. So I stood up for myself in a way that I've always wanted to do, and I feel very satisfied that I put this entitled jerk in his place. Here's what happened. So this happened a few months ago, where I was 8 weeks pregnant and feeling pretty nauseous, and I was tired most of the time. While coming home from work one day, I got on the bus and went straight for one of the seats right at the front on the bottom deck, as I wanted to sit close to the exit and no one else seemed to need it. These front seats are easily accessible, and they are for anyone who needs them. There is no definition of what those needs might be, but there are signs asking passengers to give them up to others who may need them more if they are able to. So I was sitting at the front of the bus with another lady next to me, and a few minutes into the journey, this older man gets on. He was probably in his mid-70s and appeared to be perfectly able-bodied in that he used no walking aids and did not appear to be struggling to mobilize. He looked towards the seat that I occupied as he walked past me and told me that those seats were for people like him and that I should have given it up to him when I saw him. He then sat down in the seat directly behind me, which was free. He had to walk all but an extra 2 steps to get to it too, by the way. I very nearly ignored him, but I was quite agitated by his remark, and I didn't want him or anyone else thinking that I had just taken my accessibility seat to be lazy. So I turned around to him and I reminded him that the accessible seats are for anybody who needs them. He looked quite perplexed when I said that, as though he was struggling to process that not everyone who has accessibility needs uses a walking frame or a pair of crutches. He sputtered some rambled reply back, so I cut him off and I told him I was pregnant and I needed to sit down or I was gonna puke. And when I said that, he did not know what to say. So I turned back around and I ignored him for the rest of the journey. I got off the bus before he did, and as the bus was pulling away, I purposefully made eye contact and I gave him the filthiest look I possibly could. He caught my eye for a microsecond before turning away, and hopefully that teaches him a lesson to not try anything like that with someone ever again. Yeah, that's insane to me that someone would actually say something like that in public and be like, wow, you shouldn't sit there. Like, seriously, buddy, you have no right to say that to anybody. She could have been sitting there for any number of reasons, and this entitled old jerk is gonna step up and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a wild assumption real quick. Like, that is so uncalled for, and there's just no good excuse for that. But for me, I love this story because it shows that you absolutely can always stand up for yourself. You don't always have to take the passive route in life and just take what other people throw your way. You have every right to defend your character and your good name, even when it comes to entitled jerks on the bus. An entitled guy I hired to cut my grass bi-weekly is angry that I didn't remind him to come and cut my grass, and I'm honestly just so blown away by this guy's entitlement. Here's what happened. A while ago, I hired a new guy to come and cut the grass at my house. He did a great job, and he told me that he can cut my grass every 2 weeks for $65 if that sounds good. And I replied, that definitely sounds good. So we agreed that every 2 weeks he would come out and get it cut. He initially cut it on April 22nd, so he was supposed to cut it again on May 6th. And around that time, I think to myself, wait, I know this guy said every 2 weeks, so where is he? Well, he doesn't show up, and I don't really worry about it, as the grass still looks pretty decent to me. Fast forward to May 11th, and the grass was grown, and my neighbor lets me know that he noticed my grass getting tall, and that his uncle cuts grass for many of the houses in our neighborhood. And it turns out that he's cheaper than the original guy. And this really does sound good to me, because the other guy never came around or let me know why he didn't show up. So I just kind of assumed that he wasn't doing it. So I pay for my neighbor's uncle to cut my grass. Fast forward again to May 14th, I get a random text message from the original guy saying that he's on his way to cut my grass. When I read that, I said to him, well, there is no need. We might have to reschedule this because I just got it cut on Saturday. This guy then responds by saying, we agreed that I'd cut it every 2 weeks. Sure, I was a few days over, but you should have called and reminded me. I responded by saying, I remember agreeing to you cutting the grass every 2 weeks, but it's been 22 days since the last cut, so about 3 weeks. So I assumed that you just weren't coming and someone else came along and offered to cut the grass Saturday. Like, he really wanted me to remind him of when to do his job for his business. I really don't think that falls on the customer to remind the company of scheduled appointments. minutes. And the company gets upset after essentially going missing in action until randomly texting you again one day saying that they're ready. Like, that is seriously so ridiculous, and I just can't believe that this guy acted this way. Yeah, that's the most backwards way of handling any kind of business I've ever heard of in my life. Like, does this guy not have a phone of some kind with a calendar that he can mark down his appointments? It is not that hard to put down a notification and properly schedule an appointment that you literally made. And you know what? I think the original poster has it right. This guy didn't show up for 3 weeks, and they found someone who does it for a lot cheaper. Like, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. So yeah, that guy was super entitled, and if he really wants to stay in business, then he needs to learn how to keep his appointments. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.